Hello? She said to me, propose again, but only if the ring is bigger this time. Otherwise, don't. I replied, got it. Then I returned both rings and blocked her number. 2 days later, her mom called me in tears. I'm Daniel, 31M. My girlfriend, well, ex-fiancé, ex-girlfriend, is Melissa, 29F. We'd been together for 4 years, engaged for 6 months. Or at least, I thought we were. The first proposal wasn't some viral spectacle. No drone footage, no flash mob. Just the two of us on a quiet weekend trip, a ring I spent months saving for, and me genuinely nervous in a way I hadn't felt since I was a teenager. She said yes. She cried. She posted it within 10 minutes. I thought that was the hard part. Turns out, that was the easy part. Last Friday, we were at her place. Technically, our place, though the lease was in her name because, in her words, it looks better for my credit. We were sitting on the couch, scrolling mindlessly. She stopped on a photo of one of her friend's engagement rings. Huge stone. Like, blindingly huge. She held her phone up to me and said, "See, this is what an actual engagement ring looks like." I laughed, thinking she was joking. She wasn't. She turned to me, completely serious, and said, "Propose again, but only if the ring is bigger this time. Otherwise, don't." I remember the exact tone. Not angry, not emotional, just instructional, like she was correcting a mistake at work. I asked her if she was serious. She sighed, rolled her eyes, and said, "Daniel, I don't want to look back on my life and feel like I settled. If you really want to marry me, you'll fix this." That word, fix, did something to me. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I just nodded and said, "Understood." She smiled, satisfied, and went back to her phone. She didn't notice that something had quietly ended right there on the couch. But I did. And I started making plans the moment she stopped paying attention. The rest of that night went on like nothing had happened, which somehow made it worse. Melissa talked about brunch plans, complained about a coworker who didn't understand aesthetics, asked me if I thought she should get lip filler again or wait until summer. Every now and then she'd glance at my hand, where the ring she didn't like enough rested on her finger, like it was already temporary. I nodded at the right moments, made the right noises. Inside, something had gone very still. When I got home, I didn't sleep. I sat at my kitchen table with the ring box in front of me, the one I'd hidden for months before proposing. I opened it, closed it, opened it again. I remembered how nervous I was buying it. The salesman asking my budget. Me lying and saying I was comfortable when I absolutely wasn't. I remembered Melissa saying yes. How she'd whispered, "It's beautiful," and how I believed her. The next morning, she texted me before I even had coffee. "Melissa, so have you thought about what you're going to do?" I stared at the message. "Not we. Not us. You." I replied with one word. "Yes." She immediately sent back a winking emoji and a link to a jewelry Instagram account. "This is more my style. Don't disappoint me again." That was the moment the doubt finally died. I took the ring box, put it in my jacket pocket, and drove to the jeweler where I'd bought it. The same salesman recognized me, congratulated me again, asked how wedding planning was going. I told him the truth, it's not. Returning the ring was easier than I expected. No drama, no argument, just a receipt and a polite smile. The money hit my account instantly. I felt lighter the second it did. Then I drove across town and returned the second ring. The placeholder she'd insisted we keep, just in case we upgrade. The drive home was quiet. No music, no calls. When I got back to my apartment, I blocked her number. Instagram, WhatsApp, everything. I didn't write a message. I didn't explain. I figured understood covered it. 2 days passed. Then, on the third morning, my phone rang from a number I didn't recognize. I almost ignored it. I answered anyway. A woman's voice, shaking, said, "Daniel, this is Melissa's mother." She was crying. And before I could even say hello, she asked, "What did you do to my daughter?" I didn't answer her mom right away. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because I suddenly understood why she was calling me, and not her daughter. "I didn't do anything to Melissa," I said carefully. "I just stopped doing what she expected." There was a pause on the other end of the line. I could hear sniffing, the sound of someone trying to regain control. "She says you disappeared," her mom said. "Blocked her everywhere. Returned the rings. She's hysterical, Daniel. She hasn't eaten. She says you humiliated her." That word again. Humiliated. Not hurt. Not confused. Humiliated, like this was about optics, not a relationship. I rubbed my forehead and leaned back in my chair. Did she tell you what she said to me? Silence. Then, quieter. She said you misunderstood her. Of course she did. I explained it calmly. The demand, the tone, the condition, the way she framed love like a transaction that needed an upgrade. I didn't embellish it. I didn't need to. Her mom let out a shaky breath. She didn't mention the ring size part. That didn't surprise me either. She said you were pressuring her, her mom continued, that you made her feel ungrateful. I almost laughed, but it came out as something closer to disbelief. I spent months saving for that ring, I said. I proposed because I wanted a marriage. She wanted a revision. Her mom started crying harder then. Not dramatic sobbing, just quiet, exhausted tears. The kind that come when a parent realizes something they've been defending doesn't add up anymore. She told me you'd come around, her mom said. She said you always do. That sentence hit harder than anything Melissa had said. Because it was true. I always had come around. Until I didn't. I'm not calling to convince you, her mom said after a moment. I needed to understand why she's acting like this is the end of the world. I looked at the ring receipt still sitting on my table. Folded. Final. Because for the first time, I said, someone told her no. We hung up a few minutes later. I sat there for a long time afterward, realizing something unsettling. Melissa wasn't shocked that I left. She was shocked that I didn't negotiate. And I had a feeling she wasn't done trying to rewrite the story yet. Melissa tried every way back, and once she realized blocking meant blocking. First it was email. A long one. Subject line. We need to talk like adults. I didn't open it. The preview alone told me enough. Phrases like miscommunication, stress. You took it the wrong way. No apology. Just a reframing where I was emotional, and she was reasonable. Then she Venmo requested me $1. The note said, since you won't answer. That one almost worked. Not because I wanted to respond, but because it reminded me how often she used small manipulations to force engagement. I declined it without comment and blocked her there too. By that evening, she showed up at my apartment. I know this because my neighbor texted me asking if the girl with the designer bag was supposed to be sitting on the stairs crying. Apparently, Melissa had chosen the very visible kind of breakdown, the kind meant to be witnessed. I didn't go down. 10 minutes later, I got another call from her mom again. I told her not to come there. She said immediately, she doesn't listen when she's upset. I stared at the wall, feeling strangely detached. She didn't listen when she wasn't upset either. Her mom sighed. Daniel, she says you embarrassed her. That people are asking questions. That her friends think something is wrong with her. I almost said there is, but I bit it back. What she's really upset about, I said, is that she thought I'd cave. That I'd panic and try to prove myself. Another pause. She said you'd buy a bigger ring eventually, her mom admitted. She said you just needed time. That was it. That was the final confirmation. Melissa hadn't seen my proposal as a promise. She'd seen it as an opening offer. I'm not going to fix this, I said quietly. And I'm not proposing again. To anyone. Not like that. Her mom didn't argue. She just said, I wish she understood what she lost. So did I, but not for the reasons she thought. Because what Melissa lost wasn't a ring. It was someone willing to keep proving he was enough. And I was never going to do that again. By the 5th day, the silence started doing something interesting. Not to me, to her. I heard about it secondhand. Mutual friends texting vague check-ins that were really fishing for details. Hey man, just making sure you're okay. Translation, Melissa is spiraling, and we don't know which version of the story is real. Apparently, she told people I had stormed off over nothing. Then she adjusted it to, he panicked about commitment. By the weekend, the story had evolved into, he couldn't handle being pushed to grow. Grow, that word used to scare me. Now it just annoyed me. Friday night, I got another call from her mom. This time she sounded tired instead of upset. She won't stop talking about the ring, she said. About how embarrassed she is. How everyone saw it, and now it's gone. Has she mentioned the marriage at all? I asked. Another pause. No, her mom admitted quietly. Just the ring. That told me everything. Melissa wasn't grieving a future. She was grieving a downgrade in status. The engagement photos she'd already planned. The comments she wouldn't get to read. The narrative she wouldn't get to control. Her mom kept talking. She says if you loved her, you would have tried harder. That men are supposed to rise to the occasion. I thought about all the occasions I'd already risen to. The trips I paid for. The fights I smoothed over. The moments I swallowed my pride to keep the peace. I did try, I said. Just not the way she wanted. That night, Melissa tried a different approach. A message came through on my work email. Subject line, "This didn't have to be like this." I opened it. It was long, emotional in the way that lists feelings without taking responsibility for them. She said she felt abandoned, that she felt punished, that I had blindsided her. She said the ring conversation was just feedback and that real relationships require adjustment. The last line read, "If you come back, we can start fresh. Do it right this time." I closed the email and didn't reply, because that wasn't an olive branch. It was a revised set of terms, and I was done signing contracts I never agreed to. Saturday morning, I woke up to my doorbell ringing. Not a knock, not a polite tap. A long, impatient press like whoever was on the other side expected access. I already knew it was her. I didn't answer right away. I sat on the edge of my bed and waited, listening. The doorbell rang again, followed by the sharp click of heels pacing in the hallway. "Daniel," Melissa's voice snapped through the door. "I know you're in there." I stayed quiet. She tried the handle. "Locked." "You're really doing this?" she said louder. "After everything I've invested in us." That sentence almost made me stand up out of habit. Almost. "I'm not here to fight," she continued, clearly lying. "I just want my things. You can't keep my ring like this." "That's insane." "My ring. Not our engagement." Not what it meant. Just the object. I finally spoke through the door. "I returned it." Silence. "Then, what do you mean you returned it?" "I returned both of them," I said calmly. Her voice jumped an octave. "You what?" I could picture her face. Eyes wide. Mouth open. Calculating damage instead of emotion. "You didn't have the right." She snapped. "That ring was mine." "No," I said. "It was conditional. You made that clear." She laughed, sharp and humorless. "Oh my God. You're being petty because I wanted something better. That's what this is. Wanting something better is fine." I replied. "Treating me like a placeholder until I meet your price isn't." Her tone shifted then. Cooler, more dangerous. "Do you have any idea how stupid this makes you look?" That one landed. Not because it hurt, but because it revealed everything. This was about image. Always had been. "I'm not opening the door," I said. "You should go." She stood there for another moment, then said quietly, "You'll regret this." I waited until her footsteps faded before I moved. For the first time since proposing, I felt something close to relief. Because once someone shows you they value appearances over partnership, the hardest part isn't leaving. It's staying long enough to pretend you don't see it. After she left, I thought that would be it. I underestimated how hard Melissa fought when she realized she was actually losing control. By Sunday afternoon, my phone started buzzing again. Not from her, but from people around her. Friends I hadn't spoken to in months suddenly checking in. Her cousin asking if I was okay. One of her bridesmaids-to-be. Bridesmaids. Plural. Texted. "Hey, Melissa's really not doing well. Maybe you should talk to her." That's when I realized she'd already moved on to damage control. Apparently, she told everyone the proposal had been rushed, that I'd panicked when she asked for something more aligned with her standards. She framed it like I'd failed some kind of test and stormed off instead of improving myself. What she didn't mention was the ultimatum, or the eye roll, or the part where love came with a minimum carrot requirement. Late that night, her mom called again. "I'm not calling to pressure you," she said immediately. "I promise." I believed her. "She's staying with me now," her mom continued. "She keeps saying you'll come back once you calm down. That this is just your pride talking." That word, pride, used like a flaw. "I'm calm," I said. "That's the problem." Her mom was quiet for a moment. Then she said something I didn't expect. She did this with her last boyfriend too. I sat up. "He talked about proposing." Her mom went on, voice low. "She said the ring wasn't what she pictured. He tried to save more. Took on extra work. By the time he proposed again, she said the moment felt forced." "What happened?" I asked. "He left," she said. She told everyone he couldn't handle her expectations. The pattern settled into place. Melissa didn't want a partner. She wanted a performance that escalated forever. Her mom sighed. "I think she thought you'd harder than the others." That might have been the most honest thing anyone had said so far. "I'm not trying at all anymore," I replied. "That's the difference." We hung up not long after. I stared at the ceiling, realizing something unsettling but freeing. If I had bought a bigger ring, there would have been a bigger demand next. A better proposal, a better wedding, a better husband, and it still wouldn't have been enough. For the first time, I felt grateful she showed me who she was before the wedding. By the next week, things started to get quiet in a way that felt final. Melissa stopped showing up, stopped sending people to check on me. Stop pretending this was temporary. According to her mom, she'd shifted into what her family called her reset mode, the phase where she rewrites the story in her own head until she's comfortable being the victim again. I felt nothing. That was new. I expected regret, or loneliness, or at least the urge to explain myself to someone who would listen. Instead, I noticed small things. How peaceful my mornings were. How I didn't brace myself before opening my phone. How my apartment felt like mine again instead of a showroom I kept failing to upgrade. Then, on Wednesday night, her mom called again. This time she didn't cry. "Melissa's been asking me something," she said. Over and over. "What?" I asked. "She keeps asking if you already bought another ring." I closed my eyes. "Not if you're seeing someone else," her mom continued. "Not if you stopped loving her. Just if you replaced the ring." That was it. The final piece. "She can't understand that this isn't about the ring," her mom said quietly. "She keeps saying if she hadn't said it that way, you'd still be here." I thought about that. About tone. About timing. About how many ways people like Melissa reframe accountability until it dissolves. "No," I said. "I would have left eventually." Her mom exhaled. "I think I know that now." Apparently, Melissa had spent the last few days obsessively scrolling through old engagement photos. Friends, cousins, strangers, pausing on hands, on stones, on comments, measuring herself against a life she thought was guaranteed. "She said you made her feel disposable," her mom added. I almost corrected her. Almost said no. She did that to herself. But I didn't. Because the truth was simpler. I didn't make her feel disposable. I just stopped letting myself be. And once that happened, everything else fell apart on its own. 2 days after that call, I thought the whole thing had finally burned itself out. Then my phone rang again. It was her mom. But this time, she didn't even try to ease into it. "She's blaming me now," she said flatly. I sat down. "Blaming you for what?" I asked. "For not stopping her," her mom replied. "For letting her say what she said to you. She told me if I had raised her differently, you wouldn't have left." There it was. The last deflection. Her mom sounded exhausted. Not emotional, just worn down. Like someone who'd spent years cushioning consequences that were never hers to absorb. "She told me you ruined her timeline." Her mom continued. "That you wasted 4 years of her life." I almost corrected that too. Almost said no. I returned the rings in time. Instead, I asked, "Has she said she misses me?" Another long pause. "No," her mom admitted. "She keeps saying she misses what you represented." That distinction mattered. I could picture Melissa pacing her childhood bedroom, scrolling through photos, calculating where she should be by now. Married, posted, envied, not actually partnered, just arrived. Her mom lowered her voice. "She asked if I thought you'd still marry her if she apologized." I didn't hesitate. No, not angry, not smug, just honest. "I think she finally understands." Her mom said quietly, "That you're not coming back." I felt something then. Not satisfaction. Not victory. Closure. "She keeps asking what she did wrong," her mom added. I thought about the couch, the eye roll, the conditional proposal, the way love had been framed like a failed product launch. "She didn't do one thing wrong," I said. "She did one thing honestly." Her mom didn't argue. Before we hung up, she said something that stayed with me. "I hope she learns," she said. "Before she another ring for security." I hope so too. But I also knew something else now. Even if she did learn, it wouldn't be with me. I didn't expect the last call to come when it did. It was late Sunday afternoon. One of those quiet hours where nothing feels urgent. My phone buzzed, and before I even looked, I knew who it was. Melissa's mom again. Her voice was calmer this time. Not crying. Not panicked. "She finally asked me a different question," she said. I leaned back against the and waited. "She asked me why you didn't argue." That stopped me for a second. "Not why you left," her mom continued. "Not why you blocked her. She asked why you didn't fight her on it. Why you didn't push back or negotiate." I smiled just a little. "Because the moment someone turns love into a condition," I said, "the discussion is already over." Her mom let out a long breath. I wish she understood that before. "Me too," I said honestly. Apparently, Melissa had spent the last 2 days going over the conversation again and again, replaying her words, fixating on the exact sentence she used, the ultimatum, the confidence she had when she said it, the assumption that I'd comply. "She said she thought you'd prove her right," her mom admitted, "that you try harder." That assumption had been the foundation of our relationship for longer than I wanted to admit. I thought about the rings for a moment, how they were gone now, back in a glass case somewhere. waiting to mean something to someone else. I didn't feel regret. I felt relieved. I hope she finds what she's looking for, I said. I just know it isn't me. Her mom thanked me for answering her calls, for being honest. Before she hung up, she said one last thing. She said the ring wasn't even the point. I nodded, even though she couldn't see it. It never is, I replied. After the call ended, I put my phone down and looked around my apartment. Quiet. Simple. Mine. No pressure to upgrade. No conditions to meet. My girlfriend told me to propose again, but only if the ring was bigger. I said understood. And for the first time in years, I actually meant it. Bye-bye.